Are you kidding me right now? After everything Roman Reigns did for him, after all the championships, all the main events, all the protection, Jimmy USO is about to stab his own cousin in the back on Monday Night Raw. The same Jimmy who begged, literally begged to be taken back into the bloodline is now going to turn his back on the tribal chief? This is absolutely disgusting, and I'm about to expose exactly why this betrayal is the most despicable, cowardly act we've seen in WWE in years. Let me be crystal clear about something before we dive into this dumpster fire of family betrayal. Jimmy USO has been playing everyone. He's been playing Roman. He's been playing G. He's been playing Paul Heyman. And worst of all, he's been playing US, the WWE Universe, like absolute fools. We sat here defending this man, saying he was the loyal one, saying he was different from G, saying he would never turn on family. Well, guess what? We were wrong. Dead wrong. Think about this for a second. Do you remember where Jimmy USO was before the bloodline? Do you? He was floating around in tag team limbo with his brother, winning titles here and there, sure, but never reaching that nuclear level of stardom that Roman Reigns personally delivered to him on a silver platter. The tribal chief took Jimmy and G from being just another tag team to becoming the most dominant, most talked about, most feared tag team in WWE history. They held those tag titles longer than anyone in this generation. They main event premium live events. They rubbed shoulders with legends. All because Roman Reigns elevated them. And how does Jimmy repay that loyalty? By conspiring behind Roman's back. By whispering in corners with G. By secretly planning the downfall of the man who made him. This is the definition of a snake in the grass, and I am absolutely livid about it. Now let's talk about what we're hearing about next week's Raw. According to multiple sources close to the situation, Jimmy USO is going to make a statement that will shatter the WWE landscape. We're talking about a promo that's going to reveal Jimmy's true colors, expose his real intentions, and potentially lead to the most shocking physical confrontation we've seen in the Bloodline saga. And here's the kicker. Roman Reigns apparently has no idea it's coming. Can you imagine the audacity? The sheer disrespect? Jimmy is going to blindside the tribal chief on live television, in front of millions of people, and destroy everything they built together. This is personal betrayal at its absolute worst. This isn't business. This isn't about championships or opportunities. This is about family, and Jimmy is about to spit in the face of his bloodline. Let me take you back through the timeline of Jimmy's deception, because this betrayal didn't happen overnight. This has been brewing for months, and we were all too blind to see it. Remember when GUSO left the bloodline and Jimmy stayed behind, claiming he was the loyal twin, the one who understood family values, the one who would stand by Roman no matter what? We all praised him for that. We said, finally, someone in this family understands loyalty. But looking back now, that was all an act. Jimmy stayed close to keep tabs on Roman. He stayed close to learn Roman's weaknesses, his strategies, his plans. He was gathering intelligence like a spy in enemy territory, except the enemy was his own flesh and blood. Every smile was fake. Every acknowledgement was hollow. Every "we the ones" was a lie. He was biding his time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, and that moment is coming next week on Raw. And you want to know what makes this even more infuriating? GUSO tried to warn us. Think about all those promos where G talked about breaking free from Roman's control, about finding his own path, about being his own man. We all thought G was the bad guy for leaving. We thought he abandoned the family. But G was honest. He left with honor. He told Roman to his face that he was done. He didn't skulk around in the shadows plotting betrayal like Jimmy is doing right now. G might have left the bloodline, but he left like a man. Jimmy is leaving like a coward. There's a huge difference between walking away with your head held high and stabbing someone in the back when they're not looking. G earned his independence through blood, sweat, and tears in that brutal match at SummerSlam. Jimmy is trying to steal his freedom through deceit and treachery. Now here's where things get even more twisted. Word is that Jimmy has been secretly meeting with G to coordinate this whole thing. The twin brothers, working together again, but this time against Roman Reigns. They're reforming the Usos, not as members of the bloodline, but as its destroyers. And you know what the sickest part is? Part of me understands why they'd team up again. They're brothers. They're twins. That bond is supposedly unbreakable. But to use that bond to destroy their cousin? To demolish everything the bloodline stood for? That's crossing a line that should never be crossed. Let's talk about what Roman Reigns is going to feel when this happens. Put yourself in his shoes for just a moment. You're the longest reigning Universal Champion in WWE history. You've carried this company on your back for over 3 years. You've elevated everyone around you. You've protected your family members from being buried by creative. You've given them spotlight, money, respect, and glory. And your own blood turns on you? The psychological damage from that kind of betrayal is going to be devastating. Roman Reigns is going to be broken in a way we've never seen before. not physically broken. Roman is still the most dominant force in WWE, but emotionally, mentally, this is going to tear him apart from the inside. And that's exactly what Jimmy wants. He wants to break Roman down before they even get physical. He wants to destroy the tribal chief's spirit, his confidence, his belief in family. This is psychological warfare at its most brutal. Here's what I think is going to happen on Raw, and trust me, this is going to be explosive. Jimmy is going to come out during Roman's segment, probably when Roman least expects it. Maybe Roman is cutting a promo about his dominance, about being the head of the table, about how the bloodline is unstoppable. And then Jimmy's music hits. The crowd goes crazy because they're expecting the usual entrance, the usual support. But Jimmy's face is going to tell a different story. Jimmy is going to walk down that ramp with purpose. Not the cocky, confident strut of a bloodline member, but the determined march of a man about to burn his bridges. He's going to get in the ring, and for a moment, there might be confusion. Roman might think Jimmy is there to back him up against whatever enemy they're facing that night. Paul Heyman might start introducing Jimmy like he always does. But then Jimmy is going to grab that microphone, and everything is going to change. The promo is going to be personal. Jimmy is going to air out years of frustration. He's going to talk about living in Roman's shadow. He's going to complain about always being the enforcer, never the champion. He's going to say that Roman manipulated him and G for his own benefit. He's going to claim that the tribal chief used them as pawns while he collected all the glory. And you know what? Some of it might even sound reasonable. That's what makes great heel turns so effective. They're based on twisted truths. But here's why Jimmy's reasoning is complete garbage. Nobody forced Jimmy to stay in the bloodline. Nobody held a gun to his head and made him be Roman's enforcer. He chose that position. He benefited massively from it. He made more money, got more screen time, and achieved more success as part of the bloodline than he ever did on his own. For him to now pretend he was some kind of victim is absolutely pathetic. And the worst part? The WWE Universe is probably going to cheer for Jimmy. They're going to pop huge for this betrayal because everyone loves when a babyface rebels against authority. Everyone loves the underdog story. But this isn't David versus Goliath. This is Benedict Arnold versus George Washington. This is Judas versus Jesus. This is the worst kind of betrayal wrapped up in a pretty package that fans are going to eat up like candy. Social media is going to explode when this happens. Twitter is going to trend worldwide. Instagram is going to be flooded with clips. TikTok is going to have thousands of reaction videos. And wrestling journalists are going to write think pieces about how this is the greatest angle in modern WWE history. But let's call it what it really is, it's disgusting. It's a glorification of disloyalty, betrayal, and turning your back on the people who elevated you. Now let's address the elephant in the room. What does this mean for Roman Reigns' future? Because make no mistake, this betrayal is going to change everything for the tribal chief. Roman has been defined by the bloodline for years now. His entire character, his entire presentation, his entire legacy has been built around being the head of the table, the leader of the family, the tribal chief who commands respect and loyalty from his bloodline. What happens when that foundation crumbles? What happens when Roman can't trust his own family? Does he become more vicious? More paranoid? Does he spiral into a dark place where he trusts nobody? Or does this betrayal finally humble him? Does it force him to look in the mirror and question whether his methods were right? Does it start Roman on a path toward redemption and maybe, just maybe, a babyface turn? I'll tell you what I think happens. Roman Reigns is going to become dangerous. Not the calculated, strategic dangerous we've seen for the past few years, but unhinged, unpredictable dangerous. He's going to lash out at everyone. He's going to destroy anyone who gets in his way. He's going to make examples out of people just to prove that even without the bloodline, he's still the most dominant force in WWE. And honestly, I'm here for that version of Roman Reigns. But there's another layer to this whole situation that nobody is talking about. Where does Paul Heyman fit into all of this? Because you know the wise man has to be involved somehow. Paul is the master strategist. He's the puppet master pulling strings behind the scenes. Did Paul know about Jimmy's plan to betray Roman? Has Paul been secretly encouraging it? Is Paul playing both sides to ensure he stays relevant no matter which way the power structure shifts? Or, and this is a wild theory, what if Paul Heyman is the one who planted the seeds of betrayal in Jimmy's mind? What if Paul, seeing the writing on the wall, realizing that the bloodline's dominance couldn't last forever, decided to orchestrate its destruction on his terms? What if Paul is setting up a scenario where he emerges as the winner regardless of the outcome? That would be the most Paul Heyman thing ever. Let's also consider the championship implications here. Roman Reigns is no longer the Universal Champion, that title doesn't even exist anymore. He's been chasing various championships and storylines, but the mystique isn't quite the same. Meanwhile, the Usos have been tag team champions multiple times. If Jimmy and G reunite and go after tag team gold again, they're immediately in the title picture. Are they betraying Roman partially to secure their own path to championship glory without having to stay in his shadow? And what about Solo Sikoa? Everyone forgets about Solo in all of this. The enforcer of the bloodline, the silent destroyer, the one who's been doing Roman's dirty work lately. Where does Solo stand when Jimmy betrays Roman? Does Solo stay loyal to the tribal chief? Does he follow his brothers and join the rebellion? Or does Solo see this as his opportunity to step out of everyone's shadow and forge his own path as a singles competitor? My gut tells me Solo stays with Roman. Solo seems to genuinely respect the hierarchy and understand his role. Plus, having Solo by his side gives Roman at least one family member he can trust, or can he? Because once that trust is broken, once family betrays family, how can Roman ever feel secure again? The paranoia alone could drive compelling television for months. Here's what really grinds my gears about this whole situation. The bloodline story was perfect the way it was building. We had natural progression, character development, compelling drama, and it was all leading somewhere meaningful. But now, with Jimmy's betrayal, it feels like we're hitting the reset button just for shock value. WWE has this terrible habit of blowing up their best stories before they reach their natural conclusion, and this feels like another example of that. The bloodline should have imploded on Roman's terms, not Jimmy's. Roman should have been the one making the decisions about how this family drama played out. He's the tribal chief. He's the head of the table. For Jimmy to take that control away from him is not only disrespectful to Roman's character but to the entire storyline we've been invested in for years. And let's talk about the fans who are going to defend this betrayal. I can already hear them, "Oh, Jimmy deserves his own spotlight. Roman was too controlling. The bloodline needed to end anyway." To those people I say, you're missing the entire point. This isn't about whether the bloodline needed to end. This is about how it ends. This is about respecting the journey we've been on. This is about honoring the story that's been told. Character assassination through betrayal for shock value is lazy storytelling. It's the easy way out. It's what happens when writers can't figure out how to organically evolve a storyline, so they just blow it up with a betrayal and hope the explosion is entertaining enough that nobody notices the lack of substance behind it. Now I want to address something important. I'm going to be watching Raw next week, and so should you. Even though I'm absolutely disgusted by what's about to happen, even though I think this betrayal is wrong on every level, I'm going to watch because that's what passionate fans do. We watch even when we're angry. We watch even when we disagree with the direction. We watch because we care about these characters and these stories. And that's exactly what WWE is counting on. They know this betrayal is going to make people angry. They know fans are going to have strong reactions. That's the whole point. Controversy creates conversation, and conversation creates views, and views create revenue. We're all being played, but we're going to tune in anyway because we need to see how this train wreck unfolds. So here's what I need from you right now. Drop a comment below and tell me, are you okay with Jimmy USO betraying Roman Reigns? Do you think this is good storytelling or cheap shock value? Are you Team Jimmy or Team Roman? Because the wrestling community is about to be divided like never before, and I want to know where everyone stands. And listen, if you're as fired up about this as I am, if you're as invested in the bloodline story as I am, then you need to share this video. Send it to your wrestling friends. Post it on your social media. Let's get the wrestling world talking about this betrayal and what it means for the future of WWE. The more we discuss, debate, and analyze, the more WWE understands that we care about quality storytelling. Make sure you're subscribed to Wrestling News CC because next week, after Raw, I'm going to have a full breakdown of exactly how Jimmy's betrayal went down, all the details, all the implications, and where we go from here. This is going to be the most talked about moment in WWE this year, and you're not going to want to miss any of our coverage. The Bloodline story has given us incredible moments over the years. We've seen family bonds tested and strengthened. We've seen championships won and defended. We've seen Roman Reigns evolve into the greatest version of himself. And now we're about to see it all come crashing down because Jimmy USO couldn't handle staying loyal to the man who made him a star. This is betrayal at its worst. This is family turning on family. This is everything wrong with wrestling today wrapped up in one shocking moment. But it's also undeniably compelling television that we're all going to watch. That's the beautiful tragedy of pro wrestling. Even when we hate what's happening, we can't look away. Jimmy USO, if you somehow see this, you're making the biggest mistake of your career. You're throwing away years of chemistry, success, and brotherhood for what? A singles push that might not even work? Some temporary cheers from fans will turn on you the moment you're no longer useful? You're about to learn a hard lesson about loyalty and consequences. And Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the head of the table, your reckoning is coming. The empire you built is crumbling. The family you protected is turning against you. What happens next will define your legacy. Do you rise from these ashes stronger than ever, or does this betrayal break the unbreakable? We're about to find out. The Bloodline story takes its most shocking turn next week on Raw, and the wrestling world will never be the same. This is Wrestling News CC, and we'll see you next week for the fallout.